Let me guess. You tried insults, but that didn't work. Now you're gonna beg for your life. Am I getting warm?
Not my life. Amber's. You have no idea what she's been through.
What? You mean losing Bray? No, I can't imagine what that feels like.
Come on, Ebony. You can't support these monsters. What they're doing to people.
I don't support anybody but myself, okay?
Yeah. And that is what I'm afraid of.
Welcome to Series 4, Episode 22 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Sabine.
Hi.
And Tamsin.
Hello.
With episode notes done by Matt and myself. So Series 4, Episode 22. The screenplay was done by David Fox. It was directed by Costa Boats. And the episode synopsis were read out by Sabine.
Trudy tries to reason with Ebony. Jay is sold a lie. And Java sets a trap for Lex.
Alright, so let's jump straight into that opening scene. So after coming face to face, Ebony confronts Amber about attacking her in the game.
Ram took me into his virtual playroom and showed me some stuff. Before I knew it, we were being attacked. She was there, trying to waste me. All I did was defend myself. Go ahead. Ask her.
Amber?
When you're in the game, it's get or be got. If you get hit, you lose a life.
But if you score a hit, you get one back. Like in the arcades.
As Ebony leaves it vague as to whether or not she will inform Ram, Trudy, however, follows her and gives a heartfelt plea for Amber's sake, reassuring Ebony that they plan to leave as soon as Amber is well enough. So yeah, panel, after that lackluster moment we had in the final moments of the previous episode, how did you feel about the confrontation at the mall?
Well, I really, as I've said before when I've come on to the pod, some of my favourite scenes are between Ebony and Amber when they really get into it with one another. And my other batch of scenes that are kind of similar to that is when Trudy and Ebony also get into it with each other and give some home truths. I love those. I've got to say though, for me, the Ebony Trudy stuff worked better than the Ebony Amber stuff, because to me the elephant in the room is that Ebony's kind of saying, you know, she went for my throat when we were in the game. Yeah, but you kicked her out of the city and she was essentially being pelted with fruit and rubbish, and she was heavily pregnant, and that was real and this wasn't. But that's just how I felt watching it. I didn't like the fact that Amber had to kind of make an excuse when we know the situation that she came from, and she kind of had to defend her position. I understand that, you know, they've got a new viewership who maybe don't necessarily know those previous scenes and what went down between Amber and Ebony, but this is a trend that will go on where Ebony gets defensive, and really Amber has the high ground on this, because as I said, you know, she evicted her when she was pregnant, walked her through a mob, and then that led to her going into premature labour with the Antichrist. So, you know, It is what it is, Ebony.
Yeah, I agree. I think the flaw in this scene is that there's not enough dialogue. There is so much that should and needs to be said between basically everybody what we're dealing with, and I don't know why we're getting the Sparks Note version of this discussion. And I also don't like the tone of putting Amber in a defensive position. Like, she has to defend what she did in a freaking video game. You know what I mean? That just seems really silly, and nobody's calling that out. I expect Ebony to act like the victim in any situation. That's what she does. I completely expect her to call someone out on something that even if Amber attacked her in real life, she would be justified in doing so. But I expect Ebony to always act like, I have no idea why you did that to me. Like, you can explain why you did that to me. You know what I mean? Like, I expect that. But I also expect the dialogue to point out that, first of all, Ebony, you've got no ground to stand on. And I don't like how apologetic Amber even is about this, and the fact that nobody else points that out. Like, she could ragdoll you right now, Ebony, and it would be justified. I just don't feel like there's enough dialogue here expressing everything. There's not enough talking about the game in general. Like, both Amber and Ebony are skirting over vital details of what it was. If you were in the crowd, if you were like Pride or Celine or Trudy, who's never played the game on either side, you wouldn't have enough information to understand what these two are talking about. You know what I mean? Like, more details would have been needed to be spoken about what this game entails, what it means to be in there, and all that. And it's just a lackluster conversation because there's so much more that needs to be said, and everyone is saying the most abbreviated thing they can, and I don't know why.
It's just beyond ridiculous that Amber has to justify herself. It's like, I get that she wants to explain this, but more for the sake of the others. But how on earth is someone like Pride, who's always defended Amber, sitting there and allowing Ebony to be that way towards her after what Amber's just been through, and just the simple fact that Amber didn't voluntarily step into this. As far as they know, Ebony did. It's like Ebony had a choice to be there, at least as everyone else was concerned. Amber, however, did not.
It's like the narrative is trying to place them on equal footing, and they're not on equal footing. And that is the problem with the trend of ignoring the previous season and the things that happened, because nobody who actually paid attention to season 3 would be rooting for Ebony right now, or even think that she somehow has any ground to stand on. Like, she's not in the right. She doesn't have any right to confront Amber at all about anything. And but again, this is clearly for new viewers who just have no history with the show, or just don't care, or just blindly happily watching the keys jingle. But for the rest of us, it's like, thanks for wasting my time with the previous storylines, because they apparently do not matter at all in the history between these girls. You cannot bank on the history between Amber and Ebony without acknowledging the history between them.
But even then, if you're a new viewer and just joined in this season, you'd still be aware that, that Ebony, yeah, sure, she was pushed by Ram to do that, but she wasn't tied up or anything, not like Amber. So even if you have no idea of that history, it's ridiculous.
I also want to mention something which is in the Trudy Ebony portion of the conversation, which is when Ebony basically says, "Oh, I've got no idea what it's like to lose Bray." That's a breakup. This is completely different, and she doesn't seem to care either. This is somebody that she came back for to rescue in series 3. Like, Ebony does not do that for people, but she does that for Bray. She has found out that he is missing. She doesn't know where he is. He could be dead for all she's concerned. He could have been ending up in the same situation as Amber. And we know Ebony, pre this, would have been tearing chunks of her hair out to try and find out where he was. Because it's so hot. It just feels so hollow.
Absolutely. Like, even after she hears that this is what's happening, and that Bray was apparently somewhere in there, most likely, she doesn't question it.
Yeah.
It's just,
that's what I'm saying about when it comes to the history. They want to bank on these characters having history, but they don't actually respect the history or stay accurate to it. They just pick and choose what sounds good at any given time.
Yeah.
And so as Tamsin said, it comes across as very shallow.
And it's a shame, because this should have been epic. This should have been really exciting and a way for us to sort of inject some real interpersonal tension. Because we've had events to this point taking place, but this is some interpersonal stuff, and we've had less of that in terms of the mole rat. We've had more of that with the technos. But the Mallrats, this is a chance for us to see the dynamics. I mean, we know what the dynamics are, but for a new audience to see the dynamics between these two women, and it's not there.
Yeah, it's like it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The actors can't save the script, the history, the lore, none of it can save the script.
No. It's just so disappointing.
If only it could.
And I mean, no, you guys summed it up pretty well. Like, the lack of dialogue is the elephant in the room here. Like, I don't understand why nothing is explained. Like, both sides, how they're feeling, how they're reacting to the situation. It's just lacking any depth. Yeah, that's why it falls so flat.
There could have been so much more, even between the moment where we have Trudy going after Ebony, and well, kudos for Trudy for at least trying treason with an insane woman. But yeah, there could have been so much more to that conversation.
Like, it wasn't even mentioned once. Like, she's not getting revenge because you kicked her out of the city whilst pregnant. You know what I mean? That was just, no, we can't have that. You can't remember last season, but she's just not out to get you. It's like, well, why then? If you're a new viewer, like, why? What's going on between these two?
This cherry picking, though.
They make it sound like the big threat about Amber is that she would take away Ebony's power base, and they're
Right.
they're skirting over the actual reason. If Amber was coming back to get you, she has valid reason to do so, and instead they're setting her up as a rival for city leader, which Amber never was. So that it's partly rewriting history and setting the stage for, again, people who aren't familiar with the lore or the history of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just taking the bits and pieces that they find entertaining and completely ignoring, the truth of what actually happened. What is their past, And it's like, so, I mean, I don't know how it felt for anybody who doesn't have that history under their belt. I just know for me, I felt very disinterested in the entire. I'm like, you have all these Mallrats around the table. Nobody is saying anything compelling. Like, this should have been a very explosive moment.
Yeah.
The cherry picking, though, that goes on, because like you've all said, the issue here is it doesn't make sense if we're cherry picking the things like baby Bray was born, Amber and Bray were a couple. What led Amber to be captured by the technos, we're going to ignore because we want to play down Ebony's complicity. You can't have it all the ways.
Yeah. And even have a moment, you can tell that they're trying to keep her and Amber on even playing ground by having Celine immediately come in to defend Ebony and be like, I mean, she has,
Yeah.
Trudy's like, oh, unless you're going to tell on us because you've sold out to the technos, which she obviously has. This is not a question. She has sold out to the technos for her own good. And here's Celine going, oh, I mean, she has bartered on our behalf for things. And it's like, Celine, even you aren't that stupid to think that Ebony has done a single thing for your sake. Okay, and it's just a narrative trying to make sure that Ebony's not seen as horrible a person as she actually is. Let's forget that Ellie tried to blow her up, rightfully so. Rightfully so. We're just cleaning up her image. Like, why have her do terrible things and then try to clean up her image after? They did the same thing in season 2. They took her so far in season 2 and then spend all season 3 trying to clean up her act. Like, she didn't do anything. Then they end season 3 with her being the most despicable piece of crap on the planet, and they're spending all season 4 cleaning up her act. What point of having her do these things if you're not going to stick to your guns and commit to the fact that she does this stuff?
And it's interesting that you raised the spectre of Ellie in this and what she did, because in that situation, it was very much played as if Ellie is in the wrong and Ebony was in the right. And we're coming back round there again, like you say, and this is all about rehabilitating Ebony. And it's a shame because when she shines as this morally despicable person who you root for regardless, because she occupies this really interesting space in the tribe where she flourishes in this environment. She's one of the only characters who actually flourishes in this new world order. And she has absolutely no compunction to do whatever she needs to do to keep herself on top. She is really fascinating. And when they rub off the edges, she becomes dull.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't get the point. Like, I understand if you had a character who went wrong, but they've changed their ways, and so you're spending the time rehabilitating them. Fine, cool. You know, what I don't understand is why are you trying to rehabilitate a character who you're only going to continue making despicable things, make them do terrible things? Like, that's clearly you want them to be able to do this stuff, so why can't you commit to that's who they are rather than have them do something horrible and then try to convince the audience that they're not actually terrible people? Also, you can lead up to them doing something horrible again and then start the cycle over of no, they're not actually terrible people. Like, why? I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that.
Yeah, I got
I just
nothing.
don't.
I'm just like, I don't get it. I really don't see what the point of that is. Like, who had a problem with Ebony being a bad guy? I think everybody loves her as a bad guy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
She was a beloved bad guy. So why did you feel the need to clean her up just to obviously have her go and do something terrible yet again? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why they need to do this.
because she's a great anti-hero.
Just, you know, somebody you got to always watch your back. She's a great person to have in your corner. You don't want to leave her
Yeah,
unsupervised, though. You know, just
no.
I don't get any of this.
And kind of think of Ebony, in Lion King, when Mufasa's asking for help, and then Guard digs his nails into Mufasa's paws and he falls. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about Ebony and Amber. I think that's their relationship.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Would you rank this reunion better or worse than when she came back from the dead?
Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Okay, I have to say her coming back to the dead was worse because
Yeah.
these guys are at
Yep.
least reacting to the way they found her. They've got questions. They're invested in understanding. They're reacting to it. Like, oh my gosh, the way we
Yeah.
found her is so horrible. All that stuff. Like, there's a response to it. Amber coming back from the dead and there's no questions. Like, wait, what? Who buried her? Like, how are we convinced she was dead again? Like, no, there was just, you're alive. That's awesome. Anyway, you only spent the last year mourning you. Yeah, I would rank that one still worse.
Just say something.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
up the reunion where she comes back from the dead has just reminded me of all the stuff that Ebony has done to Amber. Let's list it off, right? Left her on the mountainside when she was concussed to essentially die, right? And then pretended that she had died. Okay? Then we've talked about the pregnant thing. Okay. Amber got with Bray many years after Ebony and Bray were no longer together. He didn't cheat with Amber. She didn't steal Bray from Ebony. This is just like 2 years later, your ex gets with somebody else and you're salty about it. Oh my god.
You forgot one thing on the list of things he did to
Okay.
Amber.
Okay.
Season 1, the antidote.
I was gonna say
And
she
she takes
threatened to
Bray with
kill
her.
Bray,
Yeah,
so
that's
she
true.
could
Threatened to
blackmail
kill-
her to giving her the antidote.
She
Yeah,
threatened to kill Bray, then she took Bray with her.
it's wild. It's wild, the patience that Amber has. She is a saint with Ebony. I can't believe it.
I mean, that's kind of why I brought it up because there's two big kind of confrontation moments that should have happened, but both just failed completely.
At least the other one had, oh, but now here's Bray again to calm things down. But this,
But even without Bray, there should have been that conflict between the two.
Yeah.
Like all their history, all the things that have happened. Why aren't we getting anything?
like
Yeah, and the other thing
right
is
now,
consistently, Amber is one of the only characters who's not afraid to call Ebony out on her. So why is she not calling her out on this?
I think we're meant to believe that Amber is just so very weak at this moment that she's not able to.
Mm.
And then it never comes up. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
And it's confusing because they clearly want, okay, and this, it seems here, they want to sugarcoat Ebony's trespasses against Amber. But then they don't because they're going to bring them up as ways for Jay to question who Ebony really is when he gets to know Amber. You know what I mean? And it's like, what do you want? Like, make up your friggin' mind. I don't get it. I just don't get um, what they're going for. The characterization is garbage in this season with everyone who isn't a techno. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh, if you're not a
Could they,
techno, your characterization is dog.
could they potentially be rehabilitating Ebony because she's going to be a love interest to Jay? And then once they decide, no, we're going to go in a different direction with him, then it becomes reasons why he doesn't want to be with her because she's not the person he thought that she was. Even though we know that he knows that everybody hates her because of all the shady stuff she's done.
Yeah, but he forgives her for that part at first
Yeah,
because he's done shady stuff.
I mean, I thought that's what
yeah.
made them bond. You
Yeah,
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
exactly. It can't be everything and
It's
nothing at the same time.
exactly. It's. I feel like this scene just epitomizes everything that's just so wrong. You
Jay
know,
just likes the idea of a girl that's as bad as him, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want that.
we have a table full of characters that we should be so excited to see together
Yeah,
again, and the kind of the energy that could crackle from a conversation between all of these people and what's been going on, and it doesn't land. It's just a thunk on the table, and
and like the situation with Pride, he would not let this stand. And you could have potentially had a situation where Celine still says what she says. She's defending Ebony. Pride is coming down on the side of Amber, so Celine says what she says to defend Ebony, right? Because you can see the chink
Hmm.
that's forming, that Celine is already jealous of Amber, which is ridiculous, but anyway. But they don't even do that with it. They don't do anything with it. They might as well just be sitting there in silence.
yeah,
Hmm.
as effective as this conversation is, they might as well not be saying anything.
Mm,
Because at the
It's,
end of the day, they aren't saying anything that matters.
mm.
I mean, I like Trudy insulting Ebony for a moment, but that was tame.
But I mean, Trudy's the only one that consistently now remembers stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
But
she
even
only
she
remembers
forgot this.
but only she only remembers what Ebony has done to Amber. She should be pissed off
That's
about things that
true.
Ebony has done to her. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, this evil conniving witch sold me out to a cult, okay?
yeah.
Like, I don't trust
She
her.
handed over my baby, then she handed
Yeah,
me.
like, seriously. But no, the only reason why Trudy doesn't like Ebony is because what she did to Bray and Amber. Like, come on, girl. You can be selfish every now and then, Trudy. You can be petty and just hate her because she was a witch to you in high school, a witch to you after. Like, you can
Yeah.
just hate her for those reasons. It's okay. You're not a
Mhm.
bad person if you feel that way, Trudy. But no, we have to justify Trudy's anger by making it seem she's on the moral high ground because she only hates Ebony because of what she did to Amber.
She could have at least hated her for the simple fact that if Ebony hadn't banished Bray and Amber, Bray wouldn't have been taken this way.
Again, it would
I mean,
still be just she's upset about Bray and not, other reasons she has to be pissed off at Ebony's
Hmm.
existence.
and the frustrating thing is that no one will ever let Trudy forget that when she was at her lowest point, she was brainwashed, terrified, and manipulated into becoming the Supreme Mother. All of the stuff that Ebony has done is just brushed under the carpet. It's just another atrocity, you
Yeah, I was
know?
just gonna say, like, just the last episode, we had that whole conversation with Flex. So it's okay when it's not Ebony, but as soon as Ebony's touched on it, we can't have her past infringing on what's going on at the moment. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
stop it. She's not a saint. Like, come on.
Mm,
Man, I love that conversation with Lex. And like,
Hmm.
you can't
yeah.
have that between Amber and Ebony. Why? Why not?
Hmm.
Like, stop sanitizing Ebony. Like, please.
Was Lex even in this scene? I can't
No,
remember. I don't think he was.
no. He was busy. He was busy with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, I thought for a moment that the conversation might pick up some momentum when Chloe walked in, but Chloe had absolutely nothing to offer to it either. Like, her
No.
situation with Ved, everything. Like, it was such a stagnant. What was the point of this? We came back from last episode because we wanted to see what happened next, and clearly nothing happened next. So, like, oh, okay. Um, yeah, there's just no tension. I'm telling you, their momentum, their problem, they cannot keep the momentum rolling from one episode to another.
Yeah.
And it was so easy to do. They had the ammunition.
They had so much material to work with. The scene should have written itself.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The problem should have been editing what to leave out. Like,
Right.
okay, what shouldn't we touch on? Because these guys have so much baggage between them. But instead, they act like, yeah, there's not really much to touch on.
And they make Trudy so apologetic to Ebony as well. Like when she goes after her, it's just, the whole being nice to Ebony thing. It just annoys me because Trudy does make it seem like she's still severely feeling the guilt over things she did in the past, even though she had no choice. Yet she seems to take that as a way to just ignore some of the evil stuff others did and just go, okay, you do what you want with this city. We'll just, as soon as he's okay, we'll leave. We'll leave you be. We're no threat.
All right. Yeah, let's move on to the second part of that scene.
Amber, is there anything you can tell me about this technology, how it works?
Not much. You're looking at a screen, but it wraps around so you can't turn away. You can close your eyes, but when you open them, sometimes it's pretty and sometimes it's scary. You can walk or run wherever you want, but the trouble is, so can they.
They?
The enemy. Springing out at you from behind every doorway and every tree. They just keep coming at you over and over again, trying to get you. And there's nowhere to run, and it just goes on and on and on.
So yeah, how did you react to Amber's revelations of being inside the Matrix?
My favourite line in this was, "Do you remember the Locos?"
Duh, yeah.
And she asked Trudy that. Do you remember the Locos?
If anyone would remember the Locos, it's Trudy.
You'd think so.
Had she said this to Chloe more as a, do you happen to remember how the Locos were? Because Chloe was still so young then, sure. But to Trudy of all people.
And like, Zoot was
come
a real
on.
piece of work. I mean, as if Trudy doesn't know that.
She ran
like,
from
be
them
real.
while pregnant.
Yeah,
Because she was
yeah.
afraid. Come on.
I think inside of a bubble, this is actually a really good scene. Beth is acting her butt off.
Yeah.
She's describing this. Like, I felt her terror. I was like, this is nightmare fuel, what she's describing that they have to go through. I even, again, in a bubble, I like the implication of if she saw Bray there. Now, at this point, we have enough context clues to get that in order to get somebody's image in the game, you have to physically have them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only way Ebony could be in the game was to physically sit down in a chair and put this tech on her. The only way Amber could have been in that game was because they physically had her somewhere wired up to it. So for her to mention Bray highly implies that the same thing is being done to him elsewhere, highly implying this could be happening to every person who's been taken. I like that in the bubble. I mean, obviously in the whole picture, it ends up making no sense. But just in this moment, I think that is a really effective way of selling the terror of what the technos are actually bringing to the table, and that we should be afraid, and we need to stop this, because I think, again, it doesn't hold up, but just in this moment, it's actually really good.
And it does make you wonder, because Amber does mention that, Bray didn't seem to recognize her. He looked straight through her. So, they've mentioned before that other verts that were hooked up were, worn out, that they wouldn't have lasted much longer as test subjects anyway.
Mm.
But unfortunately, we will never know.
Because it goes nowhere and doesn't mean anything. But by itself right here, it's actually pretty cool.
Teenage me had hope.
Well, that was the point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the storyline with the Technos turns into. Offering you breadcrumbs so that you'll hopefully hang out, waiting for an answer. Only to discover the hard way they never had any answers for you, and they never had any intentions of answering all these questions they set up.
And it constantly raises the spectre that we're going to see more of these people. But then the situation there is, for the new audience, why do they care? You know, they're invested in these new characters. They're invested in Lex and Siva and Ebony and Jay, and they're not really on board with Amber and Bray because they don't know who they are.
That's why it's called nostalgia bait.
Mm,
It's for the people who have been around and are
yeah.
hanging out to see their favorite old characters. Are they coming back? Are they coming back? And they just like to keep pulling at your strings that maybe, 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 maybe.
Mm.
Just keep watching. Just keep watching.
I mean, Amber came back from the dead, so who knows? Anything's
Anything's
possible.
possible. Yeah. But I agree with both of you. You know, this is such a brilliantly acted scene, and Beth does such a great job. And I think it also illustrates what a brilliant young cast they've actually got. I mean, they struck gold here with so many of these talented young people.
That they really did.
Hats off to the casting director because they just knew what they were about, you know.
Well, Costa was around when it used to be good, so.
You have to say, shortly after this scene, there's this tiny scene of that actually gives us closure on something we were discussing last episode. We see Celine actually taking care of one of the other zombies, as Sammy calls them.
Yeah, I was glad to see that. I was like, oh, they didn't just ditch those poor people out in the street. They have been taking care of them somewhere in the mall. That's good to know.
Yeah, at least someone's watching them and taking care of them.
I suggested in the group chat, and now I've just alerted our listeners that we have a group chat, that this would have been a better way to introduce Sammy than him just turning up and them saying, oh yeah, Mouse and Sammy met at the switch on. I think if he'd been one of the test subjects with Amber.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That
that
would have
actually would
been
have worked.
nice.
That would have worked great, especially since, spoilers, Sammy's the one who has to go back in and get footage of this.
Yeah.
And it would have added to his terror of having to go back into such a traumatizing,
Mhm.
because he's already gets traumatized from what he sees. It would have added even more if he'd already been there and didn't want to go back, but he was the only one small enough to get in there to film. And, he has to pull up that courage to go do something, go back into that nightmare just so that these people will be stopped. That would have been a fantastic way to introduce Sammy and given
Missed
him some
opportunity.
history, some depth.
Yeah. I mean, it also would have illustrated that the mole rats don't just give you some hot suit, rescue you, and then kick you back out onto the street again.
Yeah, until we saw the other person in this episode.
Yeah.
I was convinced that that's what they had done.
Yeah.
They didn't want to trade them for their friends, and we didn't see them, so.
But that's kind of what these mole rats are that's who they are now. The fact that you thought they might have done that, I mean, Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, you wouldn't have thought that.
Well, they would
But
have had
now,
a discussion about it in those earlier seasons.
well,
We wouldn't
yeah.
have had to wonder where these kids were because they would have been talking about it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they had saner leadership within them all that was, in a better mental state.
At season 1, they talked everything into the ground, which I know some people find that boring, but for me, I like character work, so it never bothered me.
Same here.
Heck, even season 2, same thing. They made decisions quickly, but they were at least talking about them.
Yeah.
And I think that besides the fact that we didn't have Amber to have that discussion, we're missing other characters as well. It highlights that so much because Jack definitely would have had an opinion on that. The combination of all of them was what made it worthy to have discussions like that.
Yeah, all the insight. And we don't even know how much any particular person at the mall knows about anything. Because of the lack of discussion, the lack of expressing what people are thinking, what they're feeling, why they're doing what they're doing. I don't know what half of them know half the time. I don't even know what half of them are thinking half of the time. Well, most of the time, actually. And so I find them uninteresting to watch.
Oh yeah, the technos are absolutely the more interesting part of this season. At least, with them we're getting some new info.
I know who did it.
The raid.
It was the mall rats. They sprung some kids. One of them was Amber. I told you about her. She's a big shot in the city. She would have been their leader, but...
Don't tell me. You had other plans?
Pressured for an answer to Ram's proposal, Ebony attaches herself to Jay, telling him about the Morat raid to gain him some leverage. They visit the research facility together, where Ved appears and shows them a staged scene of kids enjoying the game. However, realizing it was all set up, and disturbed at the level of Ved's involvement, Jay realizes that he has to step carefully now in order to get the proof he needs. So yeah, panel, what did you make of Ebony's confession to Jay, and Jay's realization that he has been played, including how deep Ved is now in with Ram?
This is what I'm talking about. You spend a scene where the Mallrats and Amber have every right to read Ebony to filth what she's done. Okay? And yet instead that scene is trying to make Ebony look like she's somehow on par with Amber and isn't so bad. And only to have her completely betray them in the next. For no other reason than she's really attracted to this guy and she wants to make sure if there's a battle between him and Ram, he has the leverage to win that battle. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with this woman's character? What is the point of trying to rehab her in one scene and paint her as not so bad and then immediately have her go do something horrible, which is far more in her character? To what purpose? I want to know. Like, I don't care that she does it. It's jarring that you just spent the last scene trying to paint her as not such a bad person and being unfairly attacked, and how somehow Amber's attack is on par to the things she's done to Amber. You know what I mean? Like, make up your mind. It's whiplash.
I mean, I guess the only thing that you can take away from this is that it's interesting that Ebony believed Amber. She didn't question it. They went there, but she knew when they came out and they talked about it, she also knew that it was fake. So I guess that's something. But yeah.
I do find it disturbing that and okay, they show us that these kids can be hooked up to the game and enjoying themselves, actually having a good time. It's a choice to put them in more of a Saw, like terror-filled situation. You don't have to do that to see what their endurance is in the game. They could be having a wonderful time before they burn out. And instead you are choosing to scare the crap out of them and have them live a living nightmare. That's a choice you're making. And both Ved and Ram are totally okay with that.
Also, was it Atlantis High clips they were showing?
Yeah.
God. But with the Ved and Jay situation, it's interesting because it shows in a way that Jay has not had his eye on Ved at all, and the person that he thought his brother was, yet again, his brother is not that person at all. But we kind of already know that. So that's not even really enlightening.
Yeah, it's just, an obvious reminder of the fact that even his little brother can't be trusted. So if he can't trust his own sibling within his own tribe, who can Jay trust?
Well, he can't trust anybody, apart from, I suppose, he thinks Ebony.
Which is so adorable. So cute. He thinks, you're the only one I can trust.
Yeah.
Honestly, out of all of them, I think Siva would actually be the most trustworthy.
I'm not sure.
I can't say she is the most. Yeah, I don't think so. Not right now.
I think she would save herself. Because let's face it, Ram has already tortured Siva in that game.
True.
So she knows what he's capable of. I think she would sell Jay out. Now, would she sell Lex out? Would she sell Ebony out? Would she sell Java? Probably not. But Jay, yeah, 100%.
And she might even feel guilty about it, but she'd probably do it, at least at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a decent scene for Jay. I'm glad that he's not an idiot and wasn't immediately fooled by this ruse. Because he could have easily been like, I want to believe this, because to not believe it interferes with my goal, which is to keep going along with what Ram's doing so that I can achieve my dream of making the city better. But, seeing this, that's why he's investigating. He could choose to look the other way and instead straight up acknowledges, I don't believe this ruse. I don't believe them. Going to speak to Amber himself, like, I appreciate that. That's a nice tidbit about his character, that he could believe the lie because it would make his life easier. And yet he's choosing not to, at least at this point.
Mm.
He's going with his gut, and his gut is telling him that this is all kinds of crab cakes, man. You know what I mean? And you can see that that's not something he's happy with. Like, it sucks that I can't just trust that everything is kosher, because I really need everything to be kosher, because it gets in the way of him thinking he's a really good person.
I mean, it just makes me wish that, again, and I know I've said this every time I'm on, but it just really makes me wish as if they would colour in the technos a bit. Because from where it stands, it feels like Jay knows absolutely nothing about the people he works with. He knows nothing about how they work. And yet, we're to believe in the first couple of episodes that he set up this, helped plan this invasion, and that they've done it in loads of other cities. So which is it? Is it that, or is it, yeah. And it's not even that he had to know that they were doing this. It's that he had to know that they were capable of doing this, which he doesn't seem to have factored.
Well, it's about they don't want Jay's character to have to take any culpability for the crimes he commits,
Nope, he has to be pure and innocent.
So it's like, he has to, rather than, like, as I think we talked about this in a previous episode, rather than taking the Luke route where it is clear that Luke knew what was going on, but he justified it to himself, and then he has to live with the guilt and try to redeem himself. They didn't want to do all that work with Jay. So it was just easier to be like, no, Jay's a good guy. He had no idea all this was going on.
He's just utterly clueless.
I mean, the whole techno plan is just nonsense to me. I don't know why they've been supposedly having taken over other cities and have staged this out before. I don't know why all of a sudden they've suddenly made the breakthrough with this virtual reality here when they were invading this city. It's all just nonsense to me.
Lance, your sound effects.
Sorry. But you know what I mean? What's been the catalyst that they suddenly found this virtual reality breakthrough now? Apparently they've never had it before, but they've been invading other cities apparently, and they've done all this routines before. None of it makes sense. Don't get it.
Yeah, you're just stuck on. Okay, so what's so special about this city?
Right.
What made this
Ebony
place
lives
different?
there. Ebony lives there. That's what's special. That's it.
Like, we've heard Fed make comments about
So what was Ram's plan before? What was Ram's actual plan then? Because obviously they didn't have the technology before. So what was his plan invading the city? Why?
Well, I was assuming they invaded because they had the power station, but it's not clear. I think I'm just making that up because it seems logical, but that's not in the story.
It has the power station. It has apparently a great surveillance system that was already active in the city.
Every other city must have that. Why this city? Why? You've not given us a reason for the technos to come here to exist.
Ebony lives there.
They've tried to make technology before, and they've heard from all these people that if the Chosen thought this was a worthy place to invade, surely there must be something fun there.
No, I don't have the energy to even speculate. I don't have it today. I don't know what the plan was.
Yeah.
Do you want to discuss the technology? I know that was something.
No.
No? Okay. Because I know that was something that but no.
I said it in jest. I were over it.
I will talk about it when we're forced to, but this episode there really isn't any that I have to talk about, so.
I just think this is one of those episodes where nothing means anything. It's just words. Just words. Nothing means anything.
Oh yeah, I mean that perfectly leads us on to the next scene, because Jay visits the mall to hear Amber's story for himself.
I want to hear this. I want to know if he thinks it was all worth it. Laying waste to an entire city, taking our friends, and just for a bunch of torturers who won't even tell their generals what's going on?
I tried to bring about a new society. I tried my best.
Yeah, well, your best wasn't good enough. It wasn't nearly good enough.
And he leaves impressed with her strength and natural leadership.
Oh God.
Yeah, go ahead, panel.
Oh, another conversation that needed more words. I don't
Yeah.
care if Jay walks away thinking Amber is the bee's knees. Why? Because Amber is the bee's knees, okay? Respect the queen. I'm fine with that. But based on what she told him, I don't feel that's enough information for him to be so impressed with her and immediately think, yeah, I can see why she was the leader of whatever. Like I just more words need to be said. If Amber has every right to be pissed when she sees this guy walk into her room, and why she should be laying into this guy. I just there are so many more words that needed to be spoken between these two people to make this a powerful moment, especially since this is the beginning of show that we're going to go on of his on and off obsession with her, okay,
Mhm.
and all the people who are going to end up under the wheels of that bus. Like I just feel like this could be a very impactful moment, but they need to say more than this to each other. For she should be spitting fire. I could understand her being
Mhm.
like, fine with Ebony, I don't feel like doing it. She's not worth my energy. But to see one of the guys in the uniform who snatched her out when she was just getting food for her child and her family and have taken the man that she loved while she was in labor. This face, the techno uniform should be her nightmare. And they put her in a living nightmare, and he has the nerve to walk into her room to have a conversation.
Mhm.
She should flip a table. And instead, she only says a few
Yeah.
things to him. Like, that's his dressing down. That's it. Like, well, your best isn't good enough. Are you kidding me? It's so lame, And again, he walks away from that being like, wow, that's an impressive woman. And I'm like, she is, but not based on what she just said to you.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we get a little bit of that at the start where she first sees him and she starts to recoil on the bed.
Mm.
And like you said, we needed more of that. We needed her to basically start screaming and say, "Get him out!" And then for like Pride or someone to talk her into actually speaking to Jay, and then them still get her still spewing, like you say, fire at him, and then him coming away and having seen her overcome her fear of him, and then for her to come out fighting. I mean, that's impressive. And that is the Amber that we know because she's always had. I mean, it was a terrible, terrifying situation that all these kids were thrown into when the adults died. And, Amber was one of the characters who stepped up and said, we do not have to go face down on this. Give us that Amber. Give us that Amber back. I want that Amber.
I don't feel like anyone has given it to the technos like they deserve. I'm not saying the
Yeah,
technos are horrible. I'm saying that the characters should feel that way about them. The people who are
yeah,
supposed to be mad at what the technos did never actually say, like, really give it to them. Like, I just, like, it drives me crazy that one of the only people who goes off on the technos are Pride. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's like this is somebody who even the audience like, okay, fine, Lex is goes off sometimes. You took my woman, but I'll sleep with one of you. Who cares what he has to say? But Amber, like her introduction to the technos was nightmare fuel. You know?
yeah,
She thought she'd seen a metal man. She's in the delusion of labor, only to discover that her child's father was clearly taken by these people afterward. And and then again, they kidnapped her. They kidnapped her and then held
hmm
her in the worst, this is horrible, imprisonment. The audience deserves it. We deserve somebody to rightfully go off on the technos and lay their crimes at their feet.
yeah. And Jay's excuse of I wanted to make a better society. I mean, the obvious rebuke is that we were already doing that, and you stole that from us. You came in without a by your leave, and you tore our lives to shreds.
Like, how in the world did you think what you were doing was going to make society better, Jay? Like,
Yeah,
somebody should be saying that to him rather than just accepting that's his reasoning for these horrific actions.
yeah,
And Amber was
yeah.
the perfect
Really
person to do it. And it was
hammer
like,
it home and get him suddenly thinking that if this was the case in this city, it's the case in all of them.
yes. I mean, at least when the Maraths were being held by the Chosen, they had no problem letting the Chosen know how they felt about them.
Yeah,
Every opportunity they had, they let them know, we think you're the scum of the earth. Poor Luke is like, I'm trying to be really benevolent, and the kids constantly were going off on him, you know. And no, with the technos, no, we don't really have much to say because there's nothing we can do about our situation. And I'm like, this is some mess up Stockholm syndrome. Oh man. So yeah, I would have liked more words. If you're gonna give it to him, Amber, give it to him. I mean, she doesn't even ask where Bray is. Like, where's my baby's father? That's what I'd like to know. You got questions for me? I got questions for you too, mofo.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just got fired up because I was imagining being in that bed. Like, these are the things I want to say to the technos.
Yeah, and for him to come back at her with that same old shtick, I don't know about anyone like that. I just organised the invasion. And for her to be like, why are you working for these people if you don't know what they're doing?
I even like when he shows up, it looks like it kind of looks like the people they were helping are leaving. It's not clear what's happening in the scene. And Jay walks in, and Brian has the audacity to say, "How did you get in here?" I don't know. Maybe through the wide open door that's never closed, right? And Jay has to be like, I know my way around. No, they just don't lock any doors. That's how.
I like how Pride thought he could stop him leaving. What are you going to do, Pride?
Even Brian was like, yeah, I guess I can't do anything. Pride is trying so hard now that Amber's back to like show he's been keeping it together. Even now, he's such a pick me, I swear.
Mm-hmm.
Can't have her knowing you've been absolutely useless this whole time, Pride.
All right, yeah. That leads us to our final thoughts of the episode.
Hi, Lex. Thinking of going digital?
What is this?
Well, it's really quite simple. That's stolen property, and we're here to take it back.
Wait a minute. I don't know anything about that.
Well, don't worry. You can tell Ram all about it. I should warn you, though, he's in a pretty bad mood.
So yeah, what did you think of Lex's reaction to Siva's concerns and the situation he now finds himself in?
He has been written to be so dumb that you could execute him on the spot and I would not care.
Mm-hmm.
They've given me zero reason to care about Lex as a character this season at all. And I'm supposed to feel something. I know I'm supposed to. But like when Siva comes to him with her fears, like the way his dialogue is written is if he's the most oblivious person on the planet. There is not a single thought in this man's head. And I'm like, even at his horniest, Lex was never this dumb. You know?
Nope.
He-
His brain got taken when his wife got taken.
Yeah, it's so like what was the point of setting up the whole when he was supposed to be dying and he's thinking about Tysan and he gives Siva her crystal, blah blah blah, only to put us right back into a spot where this guy again has no concerns about what could be happening to Tysan with these technos. Can't even consider the danger he's putting he and Siva in. He just wants to get laid. Why am I supposed to care about this person and what happens to him? I say Java, take him out. You could have shot him in that shack and I would have been like, kudos. You know, like,
Yeah.
why am I supposed to care at all?
I think the only thing I did care about in this whole scene was just the simple fact that Java did it. Well done, Java.
Like, get this idiot away from your sister. He's going to get her killed.
He has a fair point with this. It's like the way Lex is behaving and just the sheer stupidity of his behavior.
Yeah.
But what really annoys me is that Siva tells him she's obviously scared to death of Ram. She's terrified. And what does he do? Oh, come on, honey. Let's just, come into bed.
Your sister's just jealous. It's not like she's concerned. It's not like what we're doing isn't dangerous. Not like these people didn't already take my wife and half my tribe. Nah. Nothing to worry about. Let's get the nookie. Like, are you serious?
And he goes to the hotel for this. Like, how on earth does Siva not realize that Ram spies on the girls in their bedrooms?
Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started on the fact that none of these people consider that they're being spied on all the time by this creeper. Let's just say really confidential stuff out in the open.
It's the flanderization of Lex, though, isn't it? That has dumbed him down to this level. So that he is just a sort of bumbling, sex-crazed idiot. He's a bit like Matt Berry's character in What We Do in the Shadows. We've seen him sort of degenerate from someone who is very complex and interesting, and again, not the most likable of the tribe, to somebody who's just like, sex now, me want. Oh, computers, that's funny. I didn't do it. Sneaking in, I know you're frightened, but I want sex now. That's him. That's his personality. I miss my wife, but I have this side piece.
And I'm not at all concerned that my wife might be strapped up somewhere in a similar way to Amber.
Yes, exactly.
What you think?
You'd think that would, again, if you want to just be like, Lex has closed his eyes to all this because he's traumatized to the point where he can't care anymore, fine. But you have a chance to fix it when he finds out what is being done to people who have been taken. And nothing, no epiphanies for him. Not a thought in his head.
No.
Like, had Ellie been around when Amber got back, she would have gone ballistic over the idea that they might be doing this to Alice. Or to Jack, for that matter.
Yeah.
And Lex just...
It's like, you need a hothead in the group, and you gave it to Pride? Instead of the obvious hothead in the group? I don't know.
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
So yeah, I'm glad when Java, frames him. She warned him. She friggin' told him.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay away from my sister or else.
Yeah.
Like, even at his dumbest, Lex was still always aware of, I could be getting into danger. I'm just dumb and brave enough to risk it, But here he acts like there's nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I could understand him being like, yeah, I know this is dangerous, but okay, if you know it's dangerous and you think Siva's worth it, let's discuss those feelings. But we're not going to do that either. You want me to understand that this guy has forsaken his wife or one of the people who took her and that she could be getting tortured, just like Amber was, then you better take the time to tell me about his feelings that he's developed for Siva. But nope, we're not going to do that either. So please explain to me why I'm supposed to care that Java takes care of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only part I care about is that I'm happy for Java that he managed.
Like, go girl. Nice to see some competency.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that hard. He's an idiot, so,
Yeah,
but that's nice to see it anyway.
And she scores herself some credits with Ram in the process.
And she needs those credits. She really does. Fighting an uphill battle, trying to impress him when her sisters are around.
So, and if he's already mad at his golden boy Ved for losing prisoners, then, solving a crime that didn't really exist.
The only thing I have a problem with is, I don't know, with all the cameras everywhere, I don't know how she was able to pull this off. But again, the technos are magic, so when they need they see everything, they do, because the plot demands they can see everything. And when they conveniently can't see anything, they just don't. They just don't know how it happened.
And this doubles down on something we've already seen with Java, which is she'll do what she needs to do to protect Siva, but also her place in the technos as well. Because if things go south with Siva, then, like you say, she has to already work so hard to get Ram, to get his attention. Without Siva and with Ebony on the scene, it's going to be even harder. So she does what she needs to do, and it's consistent from what we've seen of her so far.
Yeah, she wants to keep the status quo.
Yeah.
But yeah, she let the guy know, look, you guys had your fun, but this is dangerous for my sister, and even more so for you, so you need to stop. And he didn't. So I'm like, yeah, good for you, Java.
Yeah.
Get this idiot out of here. He's not serving any purpose to the story.
No. And also, it doesn't really feel like he's that invested in Siva. This is just something to do until Tai-san eventually turns up, or doesn't.
And they could have explored all of that. There's
Yeah.
so many things they could have done. But nope, there's not a thought going on in this guy's head.
No.
Anything positive to end the episode on?
No, I got nothing.
I liked Chloe's jacket. The ombre purple. I like the fact that she had a different hairstyle. It does make me feel like they could have just changed her top, kept her trousers, and given us a bit more another tribe style for Chloe. But I did like that jacket. It stood up. I would like a jacket like that, to be fair.
No, I don't have anything positive to add. I was literally thinking, gee, this episode got worse the more I talked about it.
I was thinking the same thing.
I watched it and I was like, okay, fine. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was not a good episode. This is terrible.
Yeah, on that note, that brings Series 4, Episode 22 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and you can show your support by clicking on that like and subscribe, and following us on all the major platforms. You can also leave us a comment or get in touch if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast yourself. Just search for the Tribe.uk or Conversations on Eagle Mountain. You can also throw us a donation. Just head on over to buymeacoffee.com/thetribe.co.uk. And we'll see you next time for episode 23. Until then, bye.
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 Bye.